Brother, Assalamu alaikum. The Sheikh has agreed to entertain a few questions. If you have any questions now, feel free to ask the Sheikh, and I'm sure he will provide a very credible answer, inshallah ta'ala.
تفضل. وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. With regards to matrimonies, you said? طيب. بسم الله الحمد لله وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Al-Imam Ahmad rahimahullah is a hadith in which he is collected in his Musnad with a fair chain of narration narrated by Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma that the Nabi al-Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam said, بُعِثْتُ بِالسَّيْفِ بَيْنَ يَدَ السَّاعَةِ حَتَّى يُعْبَدَ اللَّهُ وَحْدَهُ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ وَجُعِلَ رِزْقِي تَحْتَ ظِلِّ رُمْحِي وَجُعِلَتْ الذِّلَّةُ وَالصَّغَارُ عَلَى مَنْ خَالَفَ أَمْرِي وَمَنْ تَشَبَّهَ بِقَوْمٍ فَهُوَ مِنْهُمْ. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he tells us that Allah has sent me with the sword before the day of judgment. Before the coming of the hour, Allah sent me with a sword for Allah to be worshipped alone without any partner. And my sustenance and provision has been placed beneath the shade of my spear. Humiliation and disgrace will be upon those who go against my commands and those who imitate the people, he is from them. Those who imitate the people is from them. This hadith teaches us several things, important things of the fundamentals of the religion of Islam. And from those things is the statement of the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, those who imitate the people, he is from those people. Now most times when you hear this hadith, you're only going to hear one aspect of the hadith, which is the negative aspect, the haram aspect. Is this not the case? Those who imitate the kuffar is from them. Do not imitate the kuffar. Do not look like the kuffar. Do not be like the kuffar in their festivals. Most people who talk about this hadith, if they even have a proper understanding, they only speak about from one aspect. And it's very similar to the verse in the Quran al-Kareem in which Allah says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. That Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change what is with themselves firstly. Most Muslims, when they talk about that verse, they only speak about one half of the verse. That Allah is not going to fix your situation until you try to fix it yourself. Is this not the case? And we say this is incomplete. Just as there's darkness, there always is light. Just as there's something which is salty, there's going to be something that's sweet and fresh. The Prophet ﷺ says, those who imitate the people is from them. In other words, if you imitate the Muslims, the righteous, the pious, the knowledgeable, inshallah you'll be from them. And not too many Muslims talk about that aspect of the hadith. Allah does not change the condition of a people until they change what is wrong with themselves first. That means Allah doesn't take a blessing away from you until you yourself change it. But most of us don't speak about it like that. So therefore, a carnival, a birthday, a celebration, something that is not from Kitab and Sunnah, is it haram? Is it disliked? Is it act of ibadah? Is it just national, so on and so forth? We can agree unanimously that it isn't from the way of the righteous. It isn't from the way of the knowledgeable. It isn't from the way of the pious. So therefore, let us try to mimic and copycat the pious and the righteous. Perhaps we'll be from them. As the poet once said, تشبهوا بالكرام وإن لم تكونوا مثلهم إن التشبه بالكرام فلاح. He says, imitate the successful, even if you're not from them. Imitating the successful is a means of success. In other words, try your best to be like those who are successful. And perhaps you'll get some of this success from clinging on to them so much. So did the righteous Muslims in the past, did they celebrate independence? Did they celebrate the day in which the Prophet went to Medina? Did they celebrate the day in which Mecca was turned into Dar es-Salam as well? The Prophet ﷺ says, La hijrata ba'da al-fath, walakin jihadun wa niyyah. He says there's no mandatory migration after the conquest of Mecca. There is no mandatory hijrah after the conquest of Mecca. Before the Prophet ﷺ went to Medina, before Mecca was turned into Dar es-Salam, it was mandatory to make hijrah. You had to leave Mecca, leave your family, leave your homes. If you lived in Yemen, any other place that you lived, and go to Medina. Physically, it was mandatory. The Prophet ﷺ, he says there's no hijrah, no more, no mandatory hijrah after the conquest of Mecca. However, there shall remain jihad and there shall remain intentions. So therefore, did the Prophet ﷺ celebrate that day? What day could be better than Mecca being the Dar es-Salam? Allahu Akbar. Think about that. Muhammad's hometown, where he was from, his parents, and Muhammad ﷺ was practically kicked out of his own hometown. He left in fear, in secrecy. And he stayed in Medina for years until Allah supported him and aided him, and they came back as conquerors. And they were conquerors with Iman. And some of the ulama say that there was actual fighting. That's an issue in itself. Khilaf among the ulama. Was Mecca turned into Dar es-Salam peacefully or through violence? That's a topic in itself. What is important is that Muhammad never celebrated the independence of Mecca. The Prophet ﷺ, he never celebrated the making of Medina. Bayat al-Aqaba, when he met the Ansar the first time and the second time. When they left Medina, they made Hajj and he met with them secretly. He didn't celebrate that day. So if there was any type of significance in independence and this day and that day, why didn't Muhammad do it? We haven't said that independence, we haven't said that it's haram. I never said that. I never said that. I never said that it's haram. But it isn't imitating the way of what? Of the Nabi al-Kareem. So I think the answer is extremely clear. Try your best to be like Muhammad and his companions, and try your best not to be like those who went against Muhammad and his companions. And you can't lose. You can't lose in the dunya. As for those who say, no, it's not haram, it's only makruh, it has nothing to do with religion, so on and so on and so forth. We say we can just sidestep the punch. I don't have to try to block the punch. I don't have to try to slip the punch, just sidestep it. It's not from the way of Muhammad. It's not from the way of the righteous. It's not from the way of the pious Muslims. Period. Class. It's just that simple. As far as if you choose to lock horns with someone, so they're going to say it's not haram. This country has a national day. That country has a national day. There are ulama in this country, so on and so on and so on and so forth. And it's a fight. That's not necessarily hikmah. Avoid it. Muhammad didn't do it, and it was the greatest independence. Independence of the hearts. As Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu said, one day they went to another country, another land, and they were about to fight. And Uthman radiallahu anhu, he met the leader, and he met the commander of those mushrikeen, and he spoke to them. He says, we have come to open your hearts. We have come to emancipate you, to free you from slavery. He says, we have come to free you, to manumit you from worshiping Allah's creation to worshiping the Creator. That's what he told that man. What independence is greater than your heart being made free from worshiping other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So therefore, that's not from the way of the Muslims. And I don't think that any Muslim needs a long lecture and some of the munkarat, some of the evils that take place in these festivals and carnivals. I've never been there, so I don't know what takes place specifically. And it's a very important piece of advice for all of us, especially for the youth, especially for the imams and for the du'at. There's a famous cliche in Arabic that says, Al-hukmu ala shay far'un an tasawwurihi. To make a ruling on something, to pass judgment on a thing, is based off of conceptualizing that thing. In other words, if you've never met someone, if you've never been to a place, if you don't know it thoroughly, then don't make a what? Don't pass judgment on it. Don't pass what? Judgment on a thing. If you don't know the specifics of a thing, then avoid talking about it. There are people today, they pass judgment on places, people's acts, and if the man walked by them, they wouldn't know what he looked like. They wouldn't have a clue who's Fulan he spoke about. That's a problem. That doesn't make any sense. So therefore, I've never been there. So I don't know what's there specifically. But in general, a carnival, a festival, a holy day, a holiday, there are many things that are going to take place that are evil, of uncovering, of free mixing, of alcohol, drugs, music, dancing, all types of things that the Muslim is to be, like water and oil. Should be far away from those things. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. Fadlun.
Person had asked me, if he was sick, he said if he's really sick and weak to pray, can he combine his salah?
Question says, if a person is really weak and sick, can they combine the salah? First and foremost, we ask Allah to give this Muslim shifa. Ameen. We say yes, it is permissible for an ill Muslim to combine two prayers that are in one section of the day or the night. Dhuhr and Asr, and Maghrib and Al-Isha. They are permissible to be joint in the time of one of them for weakness, sickness, and illness. That is the brief, basic summary of the ruling, is that it is permissible. The dalil for this is when the Prophet ﷺ, he said to the woman from the companions who complained about irregular bleeding. She had irregular bleeding, irregular menstruation, and it wouldn't stop. And the Prophet ﷺ, he instructed her to do things. From those things was to make wudu. From those things was to make a ghusl, if she has the ability to do so for every prayer. And he also mentioned to combine between the prayers. To combine between the prayers. Another proof of this is the hadith of Abdullah ibn Abbas in Sahih Muslim, in which he says that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, one day he combined Dhuhr and Asr in Medina. He combined Maghrib and Isha in Medina. One narration says, من غير خوف ولا مطر, من غير خوف ولا سقم أو مرض أو كما قيل. It states that there was no rain, no fear. One narration says there was no sickness. And the list goes on. Things that prove is that when a person is sick and ill, and they feel that they cannot get back up, and they're going to go to sleep for long hours, and the medicine is going to overtake them, it's permissible to combine between one of those prayers, Dhuhr and Asr, and the earliest time of Dhuhr, or the earliest time of Asr. Maghrib and Isha, and the earliest time for Maghrib, or the earliest time for Salatul Isha. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam.